All right, good morning, church. Let's go ahead and stand to our feet this morning. Let's sing this together. This is amazing grace. This is unfailing love. That you would take my place. That you would bear my cross. You laid down your life, and I would be set free. Oh, Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me. Let's sing this out together. The power of sin and darkness, whose love is mighty and so much stronger. The King of glory, the King above all kings, who shakes the whole earth with holy thunder and leaves us breathless in awe and wonder. The King of glory, above all kings. Here we go. This is amazing grace. This is unfailing love. That you would take my place. That you would bear my cross. You laid down your life, that I would be you've done for me. Amen. Let's sing this truth out. Who brings our chaos back into order? Let's cry it out this morning. Who brings our chaos back into order? Who makes the orphan a son and daughter? The King of glory, the King of glory, who rules the nations with truth and justice, shines like the sun in all of its brilliance. The King of glory, the King above all kings. Let's cry it out, come on. This is amazing grace. This is unfailing love. That you would take my place. That you would bear my cross. You laid down your life, that I would be set free. Oh, Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me. Let's sing it out. He is worthy. Worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy is the King who conquered the grave. Oh, worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy is the King who conquered the grave. Oh, worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Oh, worthy is the King who conquered the grave. Oh, worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Worthy, worthy, worthy. Oh, this is amazing grace. This is unfailing love. That you would take my place. That you would bear my cross. You laid down your life, that I would be set free. Oh, Jesus, I sing for all that you've done for me. never fails me. All my days I've been held in your hands. From the moment that I wake up until I lay my head, I will sing of the goodness of God. And all my life you have been faithful. And all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God. Your voice, you have led me through the fire, darkest night. You are close like no other. I've known you as a father, I've known you as a friend, and I have lived in the goodness of God. And all my life you have been faithful. And all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God. 'Cause your goodness is running after me. Your goodness is running after me. With my life laid down, I surrender now. I give you everything. Your goodness is running after me. Your goodness is running after me. Your goodness is running after me. With my life laid down, I surrender now. I give you everything. Your goodness is running after me. And all my life you have been faithful. And all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, I will sing of the goodness of God. I will sing of the goodness of God. I'm gonna sing of the goodness of God.
All right, amen. Go ahead and have a seat and turn your eyes to the screen.
Well, good morning, Bedrock. Have you ever seen anybody build a fence that fast? That's what happens when you only got one weekend to get it done. You go into light speed there. That's our Bedrock youth. They are down in Camp Marywood down in North Carolina, helping them as they have done in previous years as well, getting the camp ready for all the summer campers. It's a great opportunity that Josh and Courtney take the kids down there. They do an amazing job. They'll be back this afternoon, so if you pray safe passage for them on the way back up the road today. If you're a first-time guest with us today, and I know there's some of you out there, I've met a couple of you coming in today, we do want to welcome you and hope that you I hope that you just make yourself comfortable and be part of the family. You should have gotten a bag, and if you did not, get one on the way out, please. But in that bag, there's a card that says, "We're glad you're here." If you would take that card, fill out some of the information as much as you're willing to share with us. We just want to reach out to you with an email, maybe a postcard, and give you some information about the church and maybe answer any questions you may have. So please take an opportunity to do that. But we are so, so thankful that you're here with us this morning. A couple of quick announcements. Who can tell me what next weekend is, next Sunday? Yes, it's Mother's Day. I said that in the first service, and it was like, it's Mother's Day. Like, really? I hope there was some elbows going into some ribs after that. But anyway, next week is Mother's Day, and it's an opportunity to do what we should do all year long, and that is to celebrate and honor our moms. So in conjunction with that, what we generally do on Mother's Day is we have family dedication. And what that is an opportunity for those of us in the church family who also have little ones, maybe newborns, maybe not newborns, but you've never had the opportunity to dedicate them to the Lord. And so we have a little bit of a ceremony up here. We'll pray for them and just as a church come together and go, you know what, we're going to help you parents, partner with you to help you in your primary responsibility of raising them in the fear and admonition of the Lord, as the Bible says. So if you would like to participate in that, we do ask, please register for that either on the Church Center app, on our website, or back in the fellowship hall. There's an opportunity. Chris has done some great job making some posters of all of our events that are coming up in May, and it is going to be packed. But each one of those posters has a little QR code on it. If you point your phone at it, it'll take you right straight to the link, and you can register there. In addition to the family dedication, we're also going to have a photo booth. So put on your Sunday finest or wherever what you want to wear, but it's a great opportunity to do something special for Mom. Then she says, you know what, we don't have any family photos, so guess what? We're going to have an opportunity to do that next week. You can use your own phone, have somebody else snap a picture for you or whatever. We tried to do that in the past with the camera, and then they got messed up, and who is this? And I don't know where to send the email, so it's going to be a whole lot easier, and especially the quality of the phones, cameras they got right now. My flip phone doesn't do it too well, but Jeremiah's shaking his head. I'll move on. Anyway, that's going on next week, and then on the 20th of May, is a marriage night. It's something that we've not done here at Bedrock Roanoke in the past. You had more enthusiasm first service. There you go. On the 20th, it's a Friday night. It's going to be a cheap date night, so come on out. It's going to be $30 a couple. That includes dinner and an opportunity to hear some habits of healthy marriages. So it's going to be a great time. Some of the older some of the more experienced couples in our church are going to be passing along some of the wisdom that we may not have had when we were newlyweds, but we've kind of gained it along through the years so that you don't stub your toe the way that we did, perhaps. So it's going to be a great opportunity to learn some stuff about communication, about some finance, a couple other topics. I don't want to be a spoiler here and give you all of them right now. But again, church website, Church Center app, or the QR codes back in the fellowship hall. Great opportunities. Lots of other stuff coming up in May, but we're not going to get into all that right now. But I just challenge you to go on the website or the Church Center app and click on events, and you can see all of those and register. You waving at me, Ted? Oh, okay. The backpacks. Second service. Jeremiah was going to do it at the end. That's why I got messed up here. Second service last week, Sarah stood up here and said, hey, we got this great thing going. We got the DSS backpacks. And we don't have any left because first service took them all. So she's got some more. So after the service this morning, if you will go back to the fellowship hall, Sarah will be back there with more backpacks, and you can grab one of those and fill it up for the social workers. And it's actually not for the social workers. It's for the foster kids. For those of you that did not catch that last week, what that is, when a child is removed from an unpleasant situation and they're put into foster care, a lot of times it's last minute, and they don't take anything with them, and they may not have even had anything to take with them. So what this is it's a backpack or a diaper bag, depending on the age, and it becomes this foster child's perhaps only possession going into new circumstance. And it's amazing the impact that has because they have something that they can claim as their own. and it'll be their own in a less than ideal circumstance. Roanoke City's got more placements going right now than at just about any other area in the state. And I talked to one of the social workers. We had a young lady with us in the first service who is a social worker, and she said, we don't have any. So they're super excited that this has taken place. First service folks that got them last week, we probably already got 10 or 20 that are brought back. So it's a great opportunity. If you really feel called to do that, I would encourage you to stop by after the service. Sarah will be back there. You pick up the backpack. She's got a list of everything that goes in it. Not a whole lot of thought process goes into this as far as what should I do. All the instructions are laid out for you. And we can make an impact in our city. That's what we want to be all about, is being all in this year and making an impact in Roanoke. Okay, I got it, Ted. Thanks. We're here to worship Jesus today. All the things that we've talked about are so, so important. But that's not why we come on Sunday morning, just to hear the news. We come on Sunday morning to worship a risen Savior who has come from an empty tomb. That's what this series is all about, and it's what every Sunday's about, where we can be edified and equipped, where we can worship and we can be thankful and grateful for all that He has done for us. So let's take a couple of moments, return our focus back to the worship that we walked in ready to do. Father, I thank you so much just for the privilege of being gathered together in a house of worship where we don't have any fear of being shut down or arrested, or so many things that are going on in so many parts of the world where the followers are persecuted just like they were in the apostles' day. But we have the freedom to worship you. We thank you so much for that. We thank you, Lord, that we can bring everything that we have to the foot of the cross, to know that there's nothing that we experience that you haven't already done before us, that you advocate for us, that you intercede for us. We come to worship you this morning in spirit and in truth. Amen. As we do continue our worship, let's stand together and sing of the goodness and the greatness of God.
I've carried a burden for too long on my own. I wasn't created to bear it alone. I hear your invitation to let it all go. And I see it now, I'm laying it down, and I know that I need you. Run to the Father, fall into grace. I'm done with the hiding, the reason to wait. My heart needs a surgeon, my soul needs a friend. So I run to the Father again. Condition had a plan from the start. Your Son for redemption, the price for my heart. And I don't have a context for that kind of love. I don't understand, I can't comprehend. All I know is I need you. I run to the Father, I fall into grace. I'm done with the hiding, no reason to wait. long before my first breath, running into your arms is running to life from death. Well, I feel this rush deep in my chest. Your mercy is calling out. Just as I am, you pull me in, and I know I need you now. I run to the Father, I fall into grace.
I'm done with the hiding.
No reason to wait. My heart needs a surgeon, my soul needs a friend. So I run to the Father again and again. I run to the Father, I fall into grace. I'm done with the hiding, no reason to wait. My heart found a surgeon, my soul found a friend. So I run to the Father again and again and again and again. Again and again. Again and again.
Heavenly Father, we worship you this morning. God, I pray that that is our prayer, that we would run to you again and again. You are a God who forgives. And God, I just pray right now in this moment. God, maybe there's somebody in here that it just took everything they had to get in this room. God, I just pray that we would just be able to open our eyes and focus in on you, that we would be attuned to the Holy Spirit trying to move in our life. And God, that we would just have lives that are running after you constantly. God, that we would put away the distractions of the phones, of all the stuff that's going on, lunch in a couple of hours, and all the stuff going on this week. God, I pray that we would just be intentional with the time we have right now together as the body of Christ, as we come together to worship you together, lift up your name because you are worthy of it all. So God, I pray for Jeremiah as he comes up and brings your message. God, I pray that you would just use him this morning. Give him wisdom, give him discernment to speak your words. And that we would see the text in a new light this morning. God, we love you. In him I pray. Amen. You can be seated.
Peter. Zurich.
Good morning, guys. Open your Bibles up to John chapter 20. As you turn there, I heard a story this week. This guy lived with his dog out kind of in the suburbs, had another neighbor kind of close by, had a little bit of land between the two of them. And his neighbor had a rabbit, a pet rabbit, that was in a hutch outside of his house. And this guy loved his rabbit. This neighbor loved his rabbit. Well, one day, the neighbor was gone and the man was out in his yard kind of working, and his dog runs up to him and he's got a dead rabbit in his mouth. It's filthy. It looks like he's been chasing this rabbit for a while. The rabbit's bloody. It's clearly dead. And so he looks over and he sees the hutch the door's open. And he thinks, oh no, my dog went and got that guy's pet rabbit and killed it. And so he thinks, I got to do something. And so what he does is he takes the rabbit, takes it in his house, and he cleans the rabbit. He starts washing the rabbit off, washing all the dirt off, washing all the blood off. And then he sneaks back over to his neighbor's house, and he goes into the hutch, and he puts the rabbit in the little rabbit house in the hutch. And then he backs away slowly, thinking, okay, the neighbor will come out and think the rabbit just died in the hutch, and everything will be okay. And he cleaned his dog, like got rid of all the evidence, right? Bleached the floors, all that stuff like you see in the movies. Couple days later, he hadn't heard anything from the neighbor, and then he hears the neighbor out one day, and he hears the hutch door open, and then he starts to hear the neighbor scream. And he says, oh, okay, he knows. He found the rabbit. He goes out, and he kind of meanders on over, trying to act nonchalant, and he kind of leans over the fence. Hey, what's going on? And the neighbor says, my rabbit! It died 3 days ago, and I buried it, and now it's back. This is the linchpin of Christianity, that a man died and was buried for 3 days and is now back. And not like somebody got Jesus' body and cleaned it off and set it over like, Weekend at Bernie's style, like the dead guy over there that everybody thinks is alive. No, he's really alive. And if Jesus is alive, then the tomb is empty. And this is the whole point of this new series we're in called Empty. It's that empty means something for us today. Empty means something for you and I today. And so we're seeking to answer that question we got 5 weeks left in this series. We're going to seek to answer that question. We're looking at the appearances of Jesus after the resurrection and asking that question, what does empty mean for us? Well, last week, if you were with us, we kicked it off with empty means peace. Empty means peace. And this is deeper than like a greeting, like shalom, peace, like the typical greeting. Jesus appeared to his disciples in a locked room. We don't know how he got in the door, but he's just there. And then he says this word to them twice, peace be with you. He says it twice, and it's something richer than just like the typical, like, hey, how you doing? Now, he's declaring something that now because of his resurrection, now because he is physically alive and did what he said he was going to do, guess what? We now can have peace with God. We can now have peace with Christ. We can now have peace with each other. We can now have peace with our own souls that we don't have to condemn anymore because the blood of Christ covers our sin. This is a deep and rich peace, and last week we pointed out 2 aspects of this peace. We have peace that calms our fears, and we have peace that produces courage. So now we can empty this room. We can empty our lives because we serve a risen and living and active Savior. Now, it's interesting as we get into this week and as you start to look at these different appearances of Christ, he appears in all kinds of different emotions and circumstances and attitudes that the disciples had. Every one of these is kind of pointing out a different attitude. So last week, he appeared in their fear. The disciples were afraid of the Jews. They were locked in a room. Remember, these are the same Jews that conspired with the guard that ran away. They conspired to say, hey, this is the kind of authority they had. They told the guard, hey, don't worry about your boss. We'll take care of him. Just don't let anybody know this happened. They're afraid of those men, so they've locked themselves in this room, and they're fearful. And Jesus shows up and he says, peace. Don't be afraid. This week we see him appear again. And so let's start in reading John. We're just going to read a few verses today, starting in verse 24. Now Thomas, one of the 12, called the twin, was not with them when Jesus came. So the other disciples told him, we have seen the Lord. But he said to them, unless I see in his hands the mark of the nails, and place my finger into the mark of the nails, and place my hand into his side, I will never believe. 8 days later, the disciples were again inside, and Thomas was with them. Although the doors were locked, Jesus came and stood among them and said, peace be with you. Verse 27, then he said to Thomas, put your finger here and see my hands, and put your hand and put out your hand and place it in my side. Do not disbelieve, but believe. And Thomas answered him, my Lord and my God. Jesus said to him, have you believed because you've seen me? Blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed. So where last week we see Jesus appear in the middle of their fear, this week we see him appear in the middle of doubt. In the middle of, I'm not sure about this. Now, I can say this because I don't like to pick on the church much, but I do think we've dropped the ball on this, so I will say this today. I think the church has missed the ball on the issue of doubt. I think we like to preach that doubt is wrong, that doubt is sin, that if you doubt, then something's wrong with you, then you don't have enough faith. There's something broken in you. You're alone because I never doubt. And I think we've gotten that wrong. And I think if you really honestly look at the Bible, there's no plastic people in the Bible. There's no perfect people where everything just goes okay and everything just ends up all right. Like there's a lot of serious doubt in the Bible. There's a lot of serious issues that people dealt with in the Bible. Mark chapter 9, one of my favorite stories. There's a young boy who is demon possessed, and the demon throws him into the fire, like every day. The father of this son is just beside himself. They can't get it to stop. They can't hold him back. It just happens. And he's watching his boy be tormented by this thing, and he's desperate. The disciples come along this scene, and they're trying to cast out the demon, and they can't do it. And so the father and the disciples actually get into a little bit of an argument, and in steps Jesus. And Jesus, honestly, I think if you read the text, he might be a little bit frustrated at this point because he's like, you guys just won't believe. And he talks to the father, and the father fills him in on what's going on. He's like, how long has he been like this? He's been like this since he was a kid, and we can't get it to stop. And Jesus says, all things are possible for those who believe. And here's probably the most honest statement in all of the Bible. The father looks at Jesus and says, I believe. Help my unbelief. And Jesus casts out this demon. I think if we're really honest, guys, and we look at the Bible, we see Abraham doubted. We see Elijah doubted. We see David doubted. We see the disciples doubted. Men who walked with Jesus for 3 years doubted. Doubt is not the opposite of faith. It's an element of faith. Doubt is part of the process. This is why I think Jude, this little one-chapter letter that's in the back of the Bible that says some kind of weird stuff, so we tend to run away from that because it's just kind of weird. He says this, be merciful to those who doubt. Have mercy on those who doubt. So I want you to look at me. Look at me right now, okay? Because I need you to understand this. Doubt will come. It's going to come in your life. There's going to be a circumstance that arises. There's going to be a loss that happens. Doubt will come. You're going to doubt the actions of God. You're going to doubt the character of God. You may even doubt the existence of God. But you're not alone, and you're not broken. I want to introduce you to a little girl named Emanuela. I met her on my first trip to Haiti. And you can't tell from the picture, but she had a lot of issues. She was rigid. She couldn't move. She couldn't feed herself. She couldn't do anything by herself. I mean, she just laid there. And I got to hear about her story. And when you looked into her eyes, you could just see there was just nothing there. But she was breathing. Her heart was beating. But It was like no one was home. And I found out that she had been left on a trash pile. And someone had found her and brought her to this orphanage and then said, hey, I'm her grandmother. I can't take care of her. Will you take care of her? And the woman who ran the orphanage was very kind, and she took her in. She took a lot of kids in that nobody wanted. And she took her in, and the grandmother kept coming back. And so this orphanage director would give this grandmother money and give the grandmother food. And then all of a sudden, the grandmother stopped coming, and come to find out, she wasn't the grandmother at all. She just wanted the money. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, I doubted. I doubted God's character. I asked why a lot. And I was fresh out of seminary, right? I had read all the books. I knew all the answers. I was Mr. Apologist. You ask me about the ontological argument, the teleological argument, yeah, we can talk about that, but this wrecked me. And the answers weren't good enough. But you know what I discovered? And I will be forever thankful to Jesus for this, is that he was present in my doubt. He didn't distance himself from me. He didn't push me away and say, grow some faith. He was present. And he came alongside me and helped me work through that doubt. Doubt will come. And like last week, empty meant peace. This week, empty means believe. Let's pray. Father, as we come again to your word this morning, we want to thank you. I thank you for what you did last service, Lord, and I'm asking again that you'd fill me with your Spirit. These are not my words, Lord, but yours. I pray that you would give us ears to hear, Lord, that they would encourage someone today. I thank you for the tough time with this text that I had this week. I thank you for the struggle that it was. Lord, it pushed me deeper into you, and I pray that today, that those who are in this room and struggling right now, that you would be present, that they would feel your presence with them today. God, that they'd be equipped to handle whatever this world throws at them, whatever their emotions tell them, whatever people around them tell them, that they would be equipped to run to you, to take their truest, honest thoughts to you. In Jesus' name, amen. This was a hard text, and it was one I wrestled with a lot. I actually texted John G. this week. He's preaching this same text in Bedford. I said, is this one kicking your tail? And he said, absolutely it is. And I wrestled with this. I struggled with this, and I actually, my wife and I were talking. We sit in the morning and have coffee together and chat about the day, and she actually said to me, I can't believe she said this, she said, I'm done sermon prepping with you for the day. She shut me down because that's all I could talk about was how do I preach this sermon? What do I say in this text? So here's what we're going to do today. We're just going to slowly walk through this passage. I'm not going to jump around to a lot of different places in the Bible. We're going to stay here. We're going to unpack, and I believe God has some incredible insight for us about doubt and belief that we could take home and that might help us through some dark days that we may face. So let's just start at the first verse, verse 24. Now Thomas, one of the 12, called the twin, was not with them when Jesus came. All right, Tom out. Who's Thomas? Well, he's one of the 12 original disciples. All right, we have mention of Thomas 8 times in the Gospels. That's all. He's not a major player, but when he does speak, he says some pretty incredible things. And so of those 8 times he's mentioned in the Bible, 4 of those are in a list, and 3 of those he speaks. And so I'm just going to tell you what he says. We're going to come back to the context of what he says in just a second. But hold on to what he says here. In John chapter 11, we see Thomas say, let's go and die with him. Now, bear with me. We'll get to context in a second. In John 14, he says, Lord, we don't know where you're going. How can we know the way? These are 2 of the statements that Thomas speaks in. And we'll go back in a minute. But this is Thomas. This is who we're talking about. One of the 12 disciples. Don't know a whole lot about him. Actually, Thomas is the Hebrew word for twin. So his name really isn't Thomas. They just called him the twin. We don't know anything about his twin, but that was what they called him, like this nickname, the twin. So here's Thomas. He's was not with the disciples. And then verse 25. So the other disciples, the ones that saw Jesus earlier, told him, we have seen the Lord. Now, we got to remember, Jesus has already appeared to Mary in the garden. He's already appeared on the road to Emmaus. And then last week we discovered that he's appeared in this locked room with the disciples saying, peace be with you. Now, the Greek is interesting here in how the disciples were telling Thomas that they'd seen him. And maybe, guys, you can relate to this a lot. When we were younger and we were on the schoolyard and we were telling something unbelievable, right? I jumped my BMX bike 14 feet across Dead Man's Gulch and survived. And all our friends are going, yeah, right, sure. I believe you think that happened, but I'm not sure that really happened. And then we drop the line, right? We throw down the gauntlet. This is the line that means we're telling the truth, right? You can ask my mom. Anybody ever do that? You can ask my mom. That means she'll vouch for me. That means I'm telling the truth. That means you can believe. This is what the disciples were doing. Yeah, we've seen the Lord. And Thomas is like, I saw his beard get pulled out. I saw that spear go up in his side and that blood and water flow. I saw those nails go in. I saw what he looked like as he hung out. I mean, he's unrecognizable. And they're like, no, we've seen him. We have seen the risen Lord. You can ask our moms, right? They're really serious about this. And Thomas rejects this. Thomas is like, guys, I think you saw something, but I'm not sure you really saw it. This is that moment. You guys ever watch Chasing Bigfoot? Anybody? There's a show called Chasing Bigfoot. And I'll be honest with you, I want to watch every episode because I want to see if they find Bigfoot, right? They never find Bigfoot. It's all a ploy, right? Just to get you to watch the season. At the season finale, I bet you they find Bigfoot, right? I know he's out there. And so here's Thomas, and he says this. He answers this to the guys. He says, but he said to them, unless I see in his hands the mark of the nails and place my finger into the mark of the nails and place my hand into his side, I will never believe. Now, there are some organizations, some people that are known for something, okay? We're going to just play a little game this morning, a little interactive game. I got some organizations up here that are known for something. I want to see if you can guess what they are. McDonald's is known for the Big Mac. Survey says Big Mac, all right? How about Apple? What's it known for? The iPhone, right? Revolutionized the world. All right, what about Disney? Disney Plus? He's a youngin'. Mickey Mouse. I mean, Mickey Mouse is the mascot of Disney. You think Disney, you think mouse. They've done a great job of programming our brains. They're known for these things. All right, what about these statements? Because some people are known for statements. Give me liberty or give me death. Patrick Henry. I got to be honest, guys. When I was first writing these statements down, I put down Paul Revere. And then I was like, I don't think that's right. I'm going to look that up. I'm really glad I did because I was wrong. It's Patrick Henry. All right, speak softly and carry a big stick. Teddy Roosevelt. You guys were better in the first service. They didn't get that one. How about 7 years ago? Abraham Lincoln. These guys are known by these statements, right? You say those statements and you know who we're talking about. Except for me, I thought it was Paul Revere. I think he was the British were coming, right? Yes, okay. The redcoats are coming. Thomas is known for this statement. He's known for this statement. I will not believe. I will never believe. Never mind that none of the other disciples believed Jesus was alive when Mary told him. Thomas is the one that gets singled out for this statement. One statement he made, and now he is forever known as Doubting Thomas. Aren't you glad that we don't do that anymore? That we don't take one statement that somebody tweets out and just wrap their lives around that statement and decide that's who they are for the rest of their lives. Aren't you glad we evolved past that? We never do that anymore, right? We're way better than these guys were. That was a joke, by the way. We do that all the time. And I think there's a distinction here I need to make because I think it's important. I think it'll help us have some discernment and wisdom when we meet this in our own lives or meet people who are going through this. Thomas says this word, I will never believe. Now, there's a difference between doubt and willful unbelief. It's the difference between I cannot and I will not. And doubt is can't believe. Unbelief is won't believe. Doubt is honesty. Unbelief is obstinacy. Doubt is looking for light. Unbelief is content with darkness. I think there's another famous Thomas in our history that we can go to talk about willing unbelief, and it's Thomas Jefferson. One of our founding fathers believed in God, but he didn't believe anything supernatural, nothing mystical, nothing supernatural. So what did he do? He goes to the Bible and he rips out everything that's supernatural in the Bible, including the resurrection of Christ. All of it's gone. And his Bible became a moral teaching of Jesus. That's willful unbelief. I just will not believe that. You put whatever evidence before me that you can, I will not believe. There's some men alive today that live this way. I'm just not going to believe. And I think these guys have motives for doing this because it'll turn their world upside down. A famous philosopher named Huxley said this a long time ago, actually. I have motives for not wanting the world to have meaning. It allows the philosopher, who's the philosopher? Huxley's the philosopher. It allows the philosopher to do what he wants. It is essentially an instrument of sexual and political liberation. Unwilling to believe. Let me just kind of shrink this down one statement here. I don't want to believe because then I get to be God. So let's go back to the Thomas we're talking about. And I would argue this. I don't think this is actually what Thomas is getting at. I don't think Thomas is saying, I will never believe. I think what he's saying is, I will believe if I see these things. If this happens, I'll believe. I'm not just going to take your word for it, guys. I need to see this. And so there's a difference with Thomas here. I heard this statement from Alistair Begg. If you've never listened to Alistair Begg, he's a lot of fun to listen to. He was speaking on actually Thomas here, and he said this about this belief and doubt and doubt and willing unbelief. I get those mixed up all the time. Jesus will address your intellectual honesty, but he will not entertain arrogance. Jesus will address your intellectual honesty, but he will not entertain arrogance. If you were with us last week, you heard the story of Bob, the guy I met in Haiti, who did not know who God was, and he was actually asking God, I want to know who you are. And as soon as he said the name Jesus, his room lit up. Because he wanted to know. This is the beautiful thing about God. He's not afraid of our honest questions, our honest doubts, but he will not entertain our arrogance. He's not going to do the song and dance for you. We have to be careful with this because this is where Hebrews comes in. Hebrews 12, I think, says that we be careful that we don't develop a heart of unbelief because we've been twisted and led astray by sin. We have to be careful in our own lives and discerning in our own lives when we're just willingly disobeying or willingly unbelieving God or when we're doubting. There's a difference. We have to be careful when people come to us. We have to discern whether they are just willfully doing this, they're just obstinate, or they're really asking the question. You have to ask that question. Hey, if I showed you what you're talking about, if I told you what you're talking about, would it change anything? Are you seriously looking? Or do you just is the question your God? And so we find Thomas here, and look at verse 26. 8 days later, now this is interesting, this would have been the next Lord's Day, the next Sunday after the first appearing of Jesus with his disciples. Now this 8 days later, the seventh day, the Lord's Day. This is where we kind of get the start of the church meeting on the Lord's Day. And 8 days later, his disciples were inside again, but this time Thomas was with them. And although the doors were locked, Jesus came and stood among them and said, "Peace be with you." Now, this is another reason I believe that Thomas wasn't being willfully unbelieving. He was with them. He wanted to believe, and I think he knew that the best chance for him to see what he had asked to see is to be with the disciples who had already seen it. And so, unlike the last time where he was not with them, he made an effort to be with them that day. I'm just going to be honest with you right now, okay? This is Confession of Jeremiah, and you guys can call me a weirdo or a strange person all you want. But if the guys from Chasing Bigfoot called me and said, we want you to come on an excursion with us, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going. I want to know. There's got to be some magic in the world, right? I got to know. I'm going with them. And this is where Thomas was. Don't make fun of me after this. Jen already does enough of that. You believe in Bigfoot? I'm just saying. You can't unprove him, not prove him. Thomas was there. And this is what Jesus steps into. Look at verse 27. And Jesus said to Thomas, put your finger here and see my hands, and put out your hand and place it in my side. Do not disbelieve, but believe. And Thomas answered him, my Lord and my God. My Lord and my God. Now, remember I told you we would kind of go back to some context of what some statements Thomas made. Well, let's jump back into that now. So, first statement Thomas makes is during this period of Jesus' ministry, Jesus has just been to Jerusalem. He said some things that have ticked some religious leaders off, so they actually picked up stones to kill him. When Jesus and the disciples leave, because it wasn't yet their time, he was supposed to die in Jerusalem, but not yet. And so he leaves, and now he's outside of Jerusalem, and he hears Lazarus is dead. And so he says, let's go back to Jerusalem. And all the disciples lose their minds. You can't go back to Jerusalem. You can't. Don't you remember they were just going to kill you? They picked up big rocks to hit us until we died. Do you remember that part, Jesus? And Thomas speaks up out of the crowd, and he says, let's go and die with him. Now, we might look at that and think, oh, he knew who Jesus was. I'm not so sure. I think Thomas's faith was just kind of starting. And I think we've seen this in our own lives where men are willing to die for other men because they believe in the cause so much. They believe in what they're doing so much that they're willing to lay down their lives with those men. And so Thomas is saying, Jesus is a good enough dude. Jesus is a man I've watched, and I believe in what Jesus is doing so much that I'm willing to die with him. But he's a man because he's going to die. And I'm going to die with him. Maybe there's some honor in that. I'm going to die for what I believe. Thomas was that guy. Now jump forward to John chapter 14. Jesus is in the upper room with his disciples right before he is arrested and crucified. And he's telling them this incredible speech. And in this world you will have trouble. Peace be with you. My peace I give to you. All of these really incredible things, but he's warning them. And then he says this statement. He says, I'm going to prepare a place for you. Where I'm going, you know, and you know how to get there. And Thomas speaks up. Here's where I love Thomas, because I think he's the guy with enough guts to ask the questions that we all wish we had enough guts to ask in that situation. Thomas raises his hand, kind of interrupts Jesus. Hey, Jesus, he says, Lord, we don't know where you're going. How can we know the way? You know, every other disciple in there was thinking that. He was just the only one with the guts to say it. But he said, Lord. So now I'm looking at his faith and I'm going, all right, he knows there's more to Jesus than just flesh and blood. There's something, okay, not only is he a good guy, but I'm going to follow. Like he owns me at this point. So his faith, you see his faith kind of develop here. He's kind of learning who Jesus was. And then I want you to notice the last thing he says. Jesus has confronted his doubt, saying, hey, Thomas, you know I wasn't here when you said that? You know what? I wasn't here when you said, unless I put my fingers in his hands and in his side, then I'll never believe. But you know what? I'm here, and you can put your fingers in my hands and your hand in my side. Don't disbelieve, believe. And Thomas answers. We don't even know that he touched. There's nothing in the text that tells us he reached out and touched Jesus. That's all he needed. And he said, my Lord and my God. You see the depth of his faith? You see what grew out of this doubt? You see what happened here? This is the statement I believe Thomas should be known for. My Lord and my God. He believed. And he wasn't making some abstract confession. You're a Lord and you're a God. No, this was a personal, relational, possessive confession. You are my God. You are my Lord. You are my owner and my maker. How did he move to that? Because Jesus was present in his doubt. His doubt made his faith deeper. Empty means this: whatever circumstances arise, whatever emotions pull at my heart, I have a real and risen Savior who will meet me in my doubts and help my unbelief. And then Jesus said to him, in verse 29, have you believed because you have seen me? Blessed are those who have not seen and yet have believed. That's you and me. Jesus says we're blessed for trusting. This message I know was kind of nuanced, and there wasn't like, here's point 1, point 2, but I do have some takeaway points I'd like you to write down. I think this will help you as you work through maybe some times of doubt in your own life, and definitely some times of doubt that others might face around you. So if you're taking notes, I want you to write these down. Number 1, doubt will come. Take your doubts to Jesus. Doubt will come. Take your doubts to Jesus. All right, raise your hand if you've ever had kids. All right, some of you, keep your hand up if you had young kids right now, okay? So young kids are funny, and those of you guys that had kids, this has happened to just about every parent in the room. What happens when your kid is not potty trained yet, and they have to go to the bathroom, and they're standing in the room? What do they usually do? They dance sometimes, yeah, but they usually will go find a nice little hiding spot, right? And then they just kind of lock up, right? Everybody in the room knows what they're doing. Sometimes if you ask them, they'll just tell you what they're doing. But why do they hide? We know what they're doing. It's like human nature. We just like to hide in those moments. Don't hide your doubt. God knows you. He knows every thought that goes through your head. And just like a parent who knows when his kid is taking a dump in his diaper behind the sofa, he knows when you're doubting. He knows when that happens. So don't hide from him. Don't think that you can't bring that to him. Take your doubts to him in honesty. God, I don't know what you're doing here. This makes no sense to me, and I'm actually angry about it. You think he can't handle that? You think he doesn't already know? Take your doubts to Jesus. Remember, Jesus is present in your doubts. There's this word that goes around right now. It's called deconstruction. Everybody's just tearing everything down because they've been disillusioned and now they're in despair. This goes back to Smooth's message on Palm Sunday. And so they're just ripping everything apart. Many, many people of the faith who have written books and been big deals in the Christian community are saying, we're done. We're out of here. They're deconstructing everything because I believe they were afraid to take their doubts to Christ. And the church got it wrong because we preached, you can't doubt. If you doubt, you need to hide that. Don't tell me because I'll think you're less than. Folks, I doubt. There are times in my life where I doubt. But I have to take them to Christ. I cannot deconstruct him. And I take those doubts to him. I doubt my doubts. Number 2, doubt is not the opposite of faith. It's an element of faith. That's a quote from a theologian named Tillich. Doubt is not the opposite of faith. It is an element of faith. There's this interesting way of farming vineyards. If you plant a vineyard, they call it dry farming. Basically what happens is if you irrigate sometimes it's illegal to irrigate, but if you do irrigate and give the vines a lot of water, the roots stay really horizontally. They stay up where the water is, and they never get down into the nutrients. The grapes, the fruit don't taste that good, and they're bloated because there's too much water, and so they're kind of diluted. The fruit's just not that great. And so what farmers do is they understand how much water that vine needs to keep from dying, and they'll just keep it alive, but they don't overwater it. And so what this plant does is it starts to shoot its roots deep, way down into the soil where the nutrients are, where there's water deep down in the soil. Here's what I think happens when we take our doubts to Christ and we don't just burn it all down, is that our roots go deep. I believe God allows us to doubt so that our roots will go deep. We won't stay shallow. We go deep where the nutrients are. When doubt causes us to seek truth, it makes our roots grow deep. William Barclay said it like this: if a man fights his way through his doubts to the conviction that Jesus Christ is Lord, he has attained a certainty that the man who unthinkingly accepts things can never reach. Doubt is not the opposite of faith, it's an element of faith. And if we're honest in our doubts, man, our faith grows. Number 3, doubt can break self-reliance and deepen our trust. Doubt can break self-reliance and deepen our trust. The goal of our lives in Christ is not to live a life free of doubt, but one full of trust. I don't know how, God. I don't even know if you'll do this, but I do know this. You've dealt with me bountifully, and I will trust. And then belief requires surrender. Belief requires surrender. I think Thomas's first response to the disciples is telling, because I think it showed that he was on the throne of his life. Until I see, until me, I, me, watch your pronouns kind of thing. But then you watch as Jesus comes to him in his doubt, his response goes to, my Lord and my God, you are on the throne. It breaks us of self-reliance and deepens our trust. It requires surrender. And then last, and I go back to Jude on this one, have mercy on those who doubt. Have mercy on those who doubt. Tim Keller said it like this: taking the time and effort to answer hard questions gives believers the opportunity to deepen their own faith, while creating the possibility that doubtful people may become open to the joy of Christianity. Be merciful on those who doubt. So parents in the room who have kids, who have teenagers, when your kids come to you and you say, I'm not sure I believe this, be merciful on those who doubt. When your coworkers come to you and say, you know what, that's a bunch of hogwash, I really don't believe that at all, be merciful to those who doubt. When your classmates come to you and say, I don't know why you believe this, I really don't see the sense in it, I doubt that's really what it means, or whatever it is, be merciful on those who doubt. How about the brother and sister who are believers in Christ, who are coming to you because there's a hard time? Maybe they've lost someone close to them. Maybe they lost a child, a parent, a loved one. Something didn't work out like they thought it was, and they're doubting. I don't know how good God can be if this is happening to me. Be merciful to those who doubt. Be merciful to those who doubt. And watch God take their doubts and turn it into a rich, deep faith. So as we close today, the Gospel of John began with the Word taking flesh. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, and the Word became flesh. And He came to His own, but His own did not receive Him. They did not believe. And the Gospel of John ends with Jesus again coming to His own in the flesh. But this time, they believed. Empty means believe. Would you pray with me? Lord, as we close today with this word, Lord, I pray for our hearts. Lord, if there are people here that are doubting you right now, that you would give them the courage to take those doubts to you. That they would know that here they will not be rejected. Lord, we will walk with them, always pointing them to you, God. Lord, I pray for those in this room right now who may not know you, who may not know of your death, burial, and resurrection, Lord, that you died on a cross for us. You took on the whole wrath of God so that I wouldn't have to, because of my sin, because I broke your law, because of what I was born into, God. And yet, you didn't stay dead. After 3 days, you rose again so that now my life is with yours. You are a first fruit. You are the first taste of what's to come. And I pray for those in this room who don't know you, that you would convict them to repentance today, that we would turn and trust in the work that you did for us. Lord, I thank you so much for what you've done in my life this week. I pray that you would work today. In Jesus' name, amen. Would you stand as we continue to sing?
your presence, and I just wanna sit here at your feet, caught up in this holy moment. I never wanna leave. Oh, I'm not here for blessings. Jesus, you don't owe me anything, and more than anything that you can do, I just want you. I'm sorry when I've just gone through the motions. I'm sorry when I just sang another song. Take me back to where we started. I open up my heart to you. I'm sorry when I've come with my agenda. I'm sorry when I forgot that you're enough. Take me back to where we started. I open up my heart to you. Caught up in your presence, and I just wanna sit here at your feet. I'm caught up in this holy moment. I never wanna leave. Oh, I'm not here for blessings. Jesus, you don't owe me anything, and more than anything that you can do, I just want you. Oh, I just want you, and nothing else, and nothing else, nothing else will do. And I just want you, and nothing else, and nothing else, nothing else will do. And I just want you, and nothing else, and nothing else, nothing else will do. And I just want you, and nothing else, nothing else, Jesus, nothing else will do. I'm sorry when I've come with my agenda. I'm sorry when I forgot that you're enough. Take me back to where we started. I open up my heart to you.
Empty means believe. Bedrock Roanoke, we love you guys. We're praying for you. If there's anything you're struggling with, if there are any doubts you're dealing with right now, we would love to walk with you through those. You can write us. You can get our emails off the website. You can give us a phone call. We want to see you grow in your faith, so let us walk with you through anything you might be facing today. You can let us know on the prayer request cards on the back. We love you. We're praying for you. We are behind you. Don't miss next week. It's Mother's Day. Should be a great Sunday. So come get a picture taken with your family. Have a blast with us. Joe is preaching next week, so you know that's always a riot, and it'll be a blast. So you are sent. We'll see you back here next Sunday.